Koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi, tihei mauri ora. Ngā mihi ki ngā tangata whenua, tihei mauri ora. He pauhihi ko Court Community Housing, ko Tracy Moore, aho. Welcome everyone to this session where we're going to, I'm not, these people are going to speak to you about an innovative model for community housing with supportive landlord in a partnership approach. I just here to say, picking up on Tyrone Romati's kōrero earlier, actually these ladies are absolutely fantastic at working with people in communities. What they're not used to or experienced at is speaking in public. So they would like to get all the way through their presentation, please, and then they really are looking forward to your questions after that. So once we've got through the slides, we're really looking forward to hearing from you, your thoughts, comments, questions on this really rich program that we have all been involved in together.
Kia ora. We're just going to start with a karakia. Karakia tematanga, katoa hau he hua no oku tīpuna aha ko ngā taukumi o te ao e huri nei. Nā ihoa toku whaiora ma te mārama toku hirikapo ki te waio nui a tāne Rapua he āhure mōwai mō toku tinana. Whano, haramai te toki, haume hui e tai ki e. Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kāka, ka tangi hoki a hau tihei mauri ora. Te whare tū nei, tēnā koe, te papa kei waho, tēnā koe, tēnā kōrua. Kia koutou ngā rau rangatira mā, te mihi atu kia koutou, huri noa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Tōku pepiha, i te taha o tōku māma, ko ngā tuku mata whāoroa te waka, ko tamate ua te marae, ko tuta mō te maunga, ko kaihu te awa, ko ngāpui rawa ko kukuairani te iwi. Ko te waiariki te hapu, ko tani rerangi pāwa rawa ko mirenea whare tōhunga o ku tīpuna. Ko Kalo Taki, tōku ingoa, no Tāmaki Makaurau, aho. We're just gonna...
So my name is Mackenzie Baker. I work for Court Housing as the Senior Tenancy Manager. I've been with Court for just over 7 years, and I co-lead Rapua with Kalo here at Mahitahi.
Kia ora, my name's Kalo Taki, and I'm the co-lead for our Rapua Te Ahuru Moai program alongside Mackenzie. I've been with Mahitahi Trust for about 5 years now, working across the board in most of our services within our county's Manukau area and our ADHB localities.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Zoe Trull. I'm from Te Tokatumai and Te Whatu Ora, Auckland Central, more widely still known as Auckland DHB. And I work in mental health services, and I am project manager for Rapua Te Ahuru Mōwai. Kia ora.
So Rapua is a whaiora-led service which provides permanent quality homes with intensive wraparound support for people who have been referred from Te Tokatumai Acute Mental Health Services. We're a three-way partnership which includes myself at Core Housing as the supportive landlord, Mahitahi, who provide the community support, and Te Tokatumai with the ongoing clinical support. I'll start this off with a story about one of our whaioras, Kelly. So Kelly was previously a court tenant on and off for about 10 years prior to Rapua. He was housed in 3 properties. It's important to note that he was supported by the same 3 services prior to him being housed by Rapua. He struggled with social skills. He didn't manage his activities of daily living, such as cooking, cleaning, basic hygiene, and taking his meds. He longed for a relationship with his family. However, because of his behaviors, this was never sustained. Kelly became unwell in his last property, where he caused a substantial amount of damage to the property and immense stress to his surrounding community. He then was put back into the mental health inpatients unit for almost 2 of the 4 years prior to being housed by Rapua. He was then referred to us through Rapua. Kelly's a lovely man who has had a desire to live a good life. This is what we've always wanted for him. He was offered a home just down the road from his family, who he now has a beautiful relationship with. He goes and sees his mother during the week, and they speak on the phone daily, sometimes multiple times. He lives in a block of 4 units. Each has another male similar in age. They have all built a beautiful relationship. They cook together, engage in tenant outings. He keeps his house clean and looks after his health. He never misses his clinical appointments and engages with mahitahi. He's really built a bond with us who support him on this journey. The difference this time is that 3 partners are working together to keep him well in his home. He's had no admissions since he was housed in December 2021, and that alone shows the success of this pilot. So we have 42 whaiora referred in total. 34 of these people have been housed. 33 are currently active. 25 are currently in a home of their own, 5 which are women and 20 male. Some whaiora who are under Rapua have then moved out of the Titokatumai catchment area but are still in court housing with the support of Mahitahi's community team. 6 people have had internal transfers to properties that were more suitable for them. 5 people were housed but have now gone into transitional housing as the property was unsuitable and they're waiting for another home. 3 people are now in residential care and ready to be discharged to move into the community. So court's been operating for over 30 years, and we were started by the Ponsonby Baptist Church. We offer long-term housing alongside mental health services. Court's grown into one of Auckland's largest community housing providers, and we currently provide 431 tenancies across Auckland. Over 80% of these tenancies are for single people referred for mental health services. We do also provide housing for single people from 18 onwards in small families. Court owns 307 properties, and we lease another 115 from the private market, and we're currently building another 89 homes. We specialize in 1 and 2 bedroom units. We make sure our builds are good quality next to schools, bus stops, grocery stores, and other services. So we work off an internal housing register. So we have people that are referred through to us. Once we have a vacancy that becomes available, we'll go through to the referrals. We do put a lot of thought into placements. We look at people's history, their risk, their direct neighbors, the community around them, and whether they're going to be a good fit to that particular house. When issues arise, we are very quick to work on problem solving and work on the best way to resolve it with the tenant. We do have flexibility to move people around the stock if they wish to transfer.
Te puta keatanga o Mahitahi Trust. Mahitahi Trust was first established in 1997 and founded by the late Donnie Te Ahi Pene Rangiaho. Mahitahi Trust is a kaupapa Māori community mental health and addictions provider that support whānau throughout Tāmaki who experience mental health issues. We are an organisation that is guided by tikanga and kawa through the implementation of our very own framework and guiding principles ngā pou e waru. Over the past 30 years, our mahitahi whānau have grown exponentially. Our very first contract was a community day program called Te Ho Māori, which focused on delivering kaupapa Māori-based classes for whānau whaiora. We now currently have 22 services and over 100 kaimahi employed within our organisation. In addition to this, Mahitahi Kāinga Trust was established, which saw the inception of our Papa Kāinga, Ko Tuku Tuku, which was opened officially in January 2021, providing 40 units to house whānau, Just want to say a quick shout out to our amazing tenancy manager, Matt Hoa, who is in our audience and who does an amazing job supporting our whānau whaiora.
Kia ora, there's not enough room for three of us at one time. Okay, so where Rapua came from, that sounds like it's doing feedback. Is it doing feedback? No, okay, sorry. So there was a strong lobby from people in mental health from the DHBs about the urgent need to support homelessness that people are experiencing and getting stuck in inpatient units. So part of the 2020 to 2023 Homelessness Action Plan, one of the actions was to have two pilots, one in Waikato and one in Auckland Central, to look at housing people who they call as stranded. So Auckland DHB, now Te Toka-Tūmai, and Waikato DHB were the two pilot sites. And so we have the Ministry of Health took that part of the Homelessness Action Plan and they've run it, and they set the pilots up, or the contracts for them. And they wanted, they sort of based it around like housing first. For many of you will be really familiar with the housing first model, with the housing and then the wraparound supports to house and support people in sustainable housing long-term who had been long-term homeless, chronically homeless. So this has got a similar model, except it's got the third part, which is the mental health and addictions clinical services. So it's three partners, it's like a tripod. And it was also to be co-designed. So obviously to adapt to local needs, local systems, and most of all whaiora and their whānau. So we did a co-design process where we worked with whaiora, whānau and clinical teams, and also with Mahitahi and Court, who came on board to provide the housing and the wraparound side, and really looked at the people that would be the sort of target group, that's a terrible word, for this program. So if we just want to flip over to the next, thank you. So we quite clearly defined who Rapua is for. It was broadly defined in the action plan and the Ministry of Health, but we wanted to get really quite tight around it. So it's for people who have complex mental health issues or chronic mental health issues, addictions, and usually many other needs, often physical health and other complexities, who also have a history of homelessness or really inappropriate housing, like bouncing around boarding houses, emergency housing, and so on. Also, who have a really high inpatient usage of mental health inpatients. So some people would be like really stuck. So we started off with really trying to house people who had been stuck in our rehabilitation inpatient unit for up to like 3 years. That there was nothing out there for them in the community. And also people that were just bouncing in and out, in and out, and in and out. So those were the kind of criterias. And also we have a strong equity focus, and housing Māori and Pacifica is a priority for the program. So you've heard about the Court and the Mahitahi partners, and Te Toka-Tūmai has had this strong equity focus and a commitment not to discharge anybody to homelessness, and also to a real awareness of how sustainable housing enables recovery and wellness. So a really big commitment to trying to make that happen, and especially from their experience of seeing the effect of homelessness and inappropriate housing. So The way we're working is that we take referrals from clinicians who are working in our acute mental health unit in Auckland City Hospital, and also from our rehabilitation inpatient unit, but most of them are now coming through, now that we've sort of cleared that bunch of people that were really stuck in the rehabilitation inpatient unit. We're now mainly taking referrals from our acute unit. And they are tightly screened by our 2 clinical directors who are our clinical Rapua leads from Te Tukatumai. One is from the high and complex sort of part of our services, and the other is the service clinical director of our acute unit. They screen them all, make sure that they fit this criteria, because this is a wildly popular program. Every team, every clinician wants to get their people onto this program, and we only have 70 places over 4 years. So they're tightly screened, and we're really taking the most complex and the most highest in need. And then once they are housed, then we know which area they're going to live in. Then they are supported by a team in the community, whether that's one of our geographical community mental health teams, or it's one of our cultural-based or intensive or early intervention teams. So I'll pass back over now to Hello.
Our Rapua team within Mahitahi Trust are made up of a MDT team consisting of a registered nurse, social workers, occupational therapists, community support workers, and recovery advocates, and of course myself as the lead. We work together alongside our clinical teams and our whaiora to come up with the best plan and help our whānau strive in the community of their choosing. How we come up with with an individualised support plan is we use our goal plan, which we call ngā moemoea, which consists of our 8 guiding po: manaakitanga, whanaungatanga, rangatiratanga, mahi ngātangi, wairoatanga, kaitiakitanga, mātauranga, and te ahi kāro. We focus on our whānau's dreams and aspirations, and wanting to be able to live independently, whatever that may be. Our work hours flex up and down depending on the needs of our whānau whaiora and what is happening with them that day or that week. We also have a weekly night medication run for our whānau, needing support and being able to one day self-medicate. Here at Mahitahi, we treat our whānau whaiora just how we would treat our own whānau. We bring them in under our korowai and awhi them to one day see them flourish and go on and live their own life. When we get a new referral from our inpatient units, we like to set up a whanaungatanga hui so that we can meet our whānau straight away and talk to them about our program and see if this is the right fit for them and us, and also get to know them, their goals, their likes or dislikes, and their whānau. And they also have a chance to get to know us. It's here we are able to connect with them as people and as whānau. We like to have a lot of whanaungatanga hui as many times as our whānau whaiora need or want it. And this is also alongside their whānau and their clinical team. Just some of the learnings and highlights of our program. For me, I'm just going to focus on our highlights. Some of our whānau have been discharged from our program because they are well and they are striving in their own whare and are living an independent life. Some have come off the Mental Health Act and medication after being on it for 10 to 15 years and reliant on medication. Some of our whānau are able to go and do their own shopping, keep their whares clean and tidy, and even go out on their own for a coffee in a busy shopping mall or cafe, or even going outside on their own whare and saying hello to their neighbour. These things seem so small to us when you think about them, but to our whānau, this is a huge success for them and something that has been life-challenging for them.
So we do have a range of permanent housing options for whaiora within our stock, but we also do have the ability to go to the private market and convert private rentals into social housing for Rapua. Having whaiora in a court-owned property gives us more flexibility when it comes to any issues or property maintenance that needs doing. When meeting with whaiora, they'll let us know what area that they prefer to live in. I'll look for a property within that area or in the surrounding suburbs. Once they're offered a property, they don't have to take that first property that's offered. If that's not suitable for them or it's not in the location that they're wanting, I will go back and offer them another unit. Sometimes we don't get it right the first time. There's been a few moves after issues with neighbors or that they feel unsafe. Some of them have needed a larger home for family members to come and help care for them. But we are flexible when it comes to our whaiora's needs, so we are able to make changes for them.
So we learned a lot about people's experiences and their hopes and dreams and their needs when we did the co-design with whaiora and their whānau. So we knew that we had to do things differently because lack of trust was huge from people's experiences of being in the system and the systems of receiving services through their lifetimes. Lack of trust, people feeling very disempowered, also institutionalised often. So we've all been very clear from the start that this is a whaiora-led approach, and it's about the whaiora's needs and the whaiora's goals, not the service goals. It has to be really flexible and tailored. It's not prescribed. And we all have this like really do what it takes approach. We recognise that whaiora are the experts in their own lives, and the professionals are not the experts. The professionals are there to support them to reach their goals and to do their learning. So if they want to go off their meds, they go off their meds unless they're under the Mental Health Act. But we've had some amazing actual experiences with whaiora who get settled in their houses and then go off their meds, and people, the psychiatrists and stuff, haven't been able to believe it, and they're living really well off their meds. And it's like because they've been allowed to be the experts in their own lives for the first time and been listened to and advocated for and supported. So just really interesting outcomes as whaiora become more empowered by the approach that mahitahi and court, how they work with them. And also our clinicians have learnt from this approach, and they've started changing some of their approaches and questioning their assumptions, which has been really, really positive. And I think the thing that these guys keep talking about, and we always keep talking about, is it's a really strong relational approach. Whanaungatanga is key.
We're going to leave you with the words of some of the words that we've captured from the most important people in Rapua, and we're not going to read these out, but we will leave these up on the screen for you to have a look at, because the first and final word in Rapua is with the whaiora that we work with, and we're now open to any questions. And I think we've probably just got, I'm not quite sure, Chris, how long for questions, but please do stick your hand up, yell out, and 5 minutes?
15.
Oh, 15 minutes for questions. Loads of time. Kia ora.
Jeff Mathias from Tambourine Trust. Hello. Jeff Mathias from Tambourine Trust. Thanks for that. That was really inspiring. I can't remember which one of you said that giving tenants more responsibility improves outcomes. Could you just unpack that a little bit? What outcomes are improved and what kind of responsibility, and how did you give tenants responsibility?
Is that when it comes to their housing?
It came up.
I think from the perspective of court in general, and certainly with the Rapua program as well. There's no question that whilst the people who are being housed, the whaiora who are making these decisions to come into our communities, have experienced some really significant challenges and do experience ongoing challenges. Actually, there is something very empowering about, I guess, normalizing the tenancy relationship. So those things about explaining these are your accountabilities to keep your house clean as possible, to not do damage, to pay your rent on time, to be a good neighbour. And so Mackenzie could probably, say a bit more about that. But in terms of the tenancy management, it's actually being really, really clear with people, this is your home and this is your community, and that there are expectations that go with that. And that strengthens people's connection to their home and their community in our experience, rather than treating them somehow differently than we might other tenants.
Thank you. Nobody over here has a question? You're right.
He's got to run.
Although Chris looks like he's enjoying the exercise.
You're Kevin Hawkins from Ember. Just I saw up there you talked about changing private rentals to social housing. I just wondered how you pull that off, because it's not a new build.
It was a condition of the pilot of the contract. So it's that when redirection, most ships will have experienced that the ability to redirect stock from private sector into social housing ceased under most chip programs. Actually, this is a pilot, and because there's a recognition that actually we would need to be flexible and find additional stock, that it's part of the contractual agreement that and HUD has approved that.
Philippa Harden-Chapman, kia ora koutou. This is really interesting. I was once upon a time a clinical psychologist, and I work for Otago, but I'm also on the board of Kāinga, and one of the big things that we're trying to do at the moment is link through with the health service and other agencies where people are incarcerated. And I thought this was extremely interesting. And you said that they were the two pilots. Do you know given your outcomes, which seem very positive, do you know if they're going to be that this is a prototype for something that's going to be done more widely, and what's your experience of getting funding for that?
So the pilots are about halfway through their 4-year cycle, and they're being evaluated by an independent kaupapa Māori evaluation company, and that's contracted by the Ministry of Health. So while we're seeing outcomes on the ground, they haven't gone into a formal evaluation yet. But I think we're getting good feedback from the ministries about what they're seeing with the outcomes. And so there is talk in the air about looking at rolling this pilot out. Just in terms of Kāinga that you mentioned, wanting to work with health, at Te Tukatumai we are doing a range of things, working with accessing sustainable housing for whaiora and also supporting community housing providers and Kāinga to access mental health support for tenants. So that's another project that I work on, it's separate to Rapua, but there's a whole lot of work that's going on around this Rapua program so that the work doesn't happen in isolation from a health perspective, because it's one part of achieving sustainable housing for one cohort. So I've been working really closely with wonderful people like Karen Hitchcock over there in the audience from Kāinga and her amazing team to look at how we work more collaboratively to achieve the right outcomes for tenants. I don't know if you want to say something about that, Karen, or you could talk to Philippa afterwards.
Kia ora koutou. My name's Viv. I'm from Airedale Property Trust. We work within the Housing First program in Rotorua. We actually take houses from the community pool and then we sublet them to our tenants. So it's a huge role. One of my questions, please, is we deal with a lot of people that have mental health issues and we struggle with trying to get support in Rotorua for those people so that they can sustain their tenancies, and it's affecting the tenancies. It's also starting to affect our ability to get houses from within the community. Is there anything that's coming up in our area that we would be able to engage with to help to support the manahanaha that we work with there, please?
Kia ora, Viv. I used to work for LifeWise before I worked for the Te Toka and I know the Rotorua Service Housing First very well, but I haven't met you. Kia ora. So this is, I get you, because I was working in Housing First in the community before I was in health. And so I was that person banging on the mental health door going, we need help. And I was like harassing who's now my boss, can we have psychiatrists come and work in our program? Because we were experiencing such difficulty with mental health issues. And I'm trying to open those doors for housing providers so that they can work with our clinical teams. And it's taking a while, but we're making really good steps. We're organising training and meetings and sharing information and all sorts of things to collaborate with CHIPS and kāinga ora. So happy to have a conversation with you offline, Viv, about, I don't know what's happening with the Te Whatu Ora down there, but we're happy to share.
I'm Paul Commons, I'm from kāinga ora. This is seriously impressive, so kudos to you guys. You talked about how valuable the service was for those in need, and it's a pilot. How big do you think the demand is in Auckland for this? If you had a magic ball and a magic bucket of cash, how big could this get, do you think, from your experience?
We could just go to 2,000 right now, couldn't we, guys? If we had the money and the resources, I reckon, for Te Tukatū mai whaiora. Because the ones that fit the criteria come through to Rapua, and then there's all these others that don't quite fit the Rapua criteria, and we can only take so many because it's a small pilot, effectively. But the clinicians are just dying for this. It's like our clinicians in mental health services are saying this is just what we've always needed, and they're seeing the results. They're seeing people living really well in the community, reconnecting with their families, getting jobs, managing their own medication, doing all sorts of things that they never believed they would be capable of doing. So, it's not rocket science, is it? Having the right kind of support that works for you and having good housing with a supportive landlord, but man, it's hard to achieve, eh?
Kia ora Toto, I'm Jackie Farrell from Tauranga Community Housing Trust. Congratulations, you're achieving what we are all trying to achieve without the blessing of the pilot that you've been working under, and struggling, as you heard from Viv. We're all probably in the same boat exactly. So in the absence of funding to run a similar initiative in our regions, I'm interested to know how the rent is paid. Is it IRS? Is it come from a pool of funding through the health?
It is
that comes with the
IRS.
client? It is. Excellent. Thank you. That's what I want to know, how it's funded outside of that.
Outside of the IRS sort of part of it, which court manages and is used to doing with all the other housing anyway, the extra bit of money is all about the wraparound support in the same way that Housing First works. Yeah. There's no extra funding for Te Tukatū mai.
And I think I might just, add to that. You've probably seen in one of the slides, court strong bent is towards developing our own housing. And we've heard some of the keynote speakers today speaking about increasing the growth of the community housing sector. And I just think that for all of us and for all of the whānau whaiora and peak communities that we serve, actually an increase in supply of sustainable housing where people can move into their home and know that that is there for them, whether or not they are part of a program or part of a particular initiative, but actually that tenancy is there and it is theirs, and that there is flexibility to provide housing in community-based environments that supports their well-being and enables them to make connections. That's what we all need, and that's, so yes, it's funded through IRS, but we need more supply.
Sorry, I just want to go off subject, off piste, because I forgot to say before, I just want to say it before I forget and you all go away. Down there we've got a couple of flyers about the program, and one is, they look slightly different. One is for whaiora and their whānau, so it's sort of targeted towards them, and the other is for mental health clinicians, describing the program, but you might be interested. And there's a stack of reports. I only printed out 15 because I was overweight with my luggage. I only had carry-on luggage. There's a stack of 15 for people that are really interested, co-design reports that are from all the design that we did and all the learning that we got that informed the concepts that we then came up with for Rapua, if people are interested to come and get them. Sorry, but ask more questions now.
Kia ora, Maria English from Impact Lab. Congratulations and thanks for what you've shared. I'd love to hear more about the arrow from professionals are the experts to whaiora are the experts. From a workforce perspective, how do you train professionals who are used to being the experts to genuinely give whaiora agency, especially when the professionals might not agree with what they're deciding?
Which one? I think, I think we'll just go back to whanaungatanga. I think right from the very beginning, like when we meet our whānau, so we're in the inpatient unit. So once we get that referral, even when we're going back and forth with the clinicians or the doctors, needing documentation, we're in there straight away, getting to know them, building a relationship, and our team, not to talk up our team, but we're a really tight team. Our comms are on. We're talking constantly throughout the day, and we've just built really, really strong relationships within each other and within our whānau whaiora, and also with our clinicians as well. So at the beginning, there was a little bit of teething issues there, trying to, show our clinicians how we mahi, and we're for our whaiora, and this is our whaiora's voice, and we're really strong on that. We're not moving, we're not, budging. This is what they're wanting, this is what they're saying, and this is what needs to happen. So I think 2 years on, we've pretty much mastered that now, and we still have the same the same team that we started with, but we've grown. So we started with a small team. I think there was only about 7 of us when we started, and we're about 13 now, but we're growing bigger and bigger each week. So yeah, I think that's how we've sustained that, is through whanaungatanga.
Kia ora, Carlo. I just want to add to what you've said. I think the way that these guys work is very empowering anyway, and what you see is whaiora learning that they will be listened to and that they will be responded to, and they find their voice when they work with both court and mahitahi in that really empowering way, and then they find their voice more often with like the psychiatrists and stuff where maybe they hadn't been able to voice it, and same with whānau as well of whaiora, and where the voice is not heard by the clinicians, that's where, like Carl was saying, they come in and they advocate and they support them. And I think something that I've observed within Te Toka Tūmai is that the proof is in the pudding. So the clinicians, the word goes around, oh my gosh, this person got housed, oh, they're doing really well. Oh, we never thought, of course, the kumara vine's going. And so people who didn't really get it at the beginning are getting it now. They understand this approach. And some of our clinicians also work this way, are amazing, but the sort of system doesn't tend to work that way.
Kia ora, and apologies, we're at time. I know there were a couple other questions, so maybe just catch those individually. And if you could all join me in thanking Kalo, Mackenzie, Zoe, and Tracy